Going to the Pictures was painted in 1941, and it was one of a group of pictures which formed Drysdale's 1942 exhibition at the Macquarie Galleries in Sydney. Notably, several of the pictures from that exhibition ended up in important state collections.
From when we were little, my brother and I, we were allowed to be everywhere in the studio. I realised that I was 3, I think, when this was painted, so I had no memory of it then. It was painted after he'd studied, and also for a period he'd been in France, and he was very influenced by Modigliani and people of that period. And I can see those painters in a way in there, and that sort of strange elongation of the figures.
So what we have is a family heading out to an outing to the Pictures. We assume it's a Sunday. They're dressed in the Sunday best. Mum's got her handbag and her hat with the flowers on it, and Dad's got you can just see his fob watch chain under the jacket. And an interesting thing about it, which I think pins it on a Sunday afternoon, is the fact that the boys are both wearing shoes. If you look at the other pictures from this series, the children aren't wearing any shoes. And if you'll notice, there's one lad and he's leaning on the car waiting, but the other one's speeding out of the house, and I surmise that it's taken him some time to find them. The important thing, of course, was that these pictures spoke to an Australian identity.
For one thing, you must remember my environment for years had been the country. There were people I knew. I liked landscape painting, and the introduction of figures into landscapes is sometimes very important. It gives a sense of scale to a landscape.
The figure in the landscape, I think, has always been a symbolic thing as far as I'm concerned. It's man and the land, really. A kind of continual love-hate relationship.
He's always felt comfortable in the country, really comfortable. He jackarooed. My grandfather had a property in the Riverina outside Albury, and he jackarooed there, and his intention was to go on the land. And then there was a radical change. He had an eye operation, and when he was recovering, he was drawing. Apparently he was always drawing. And the surgeon said, "That's good, why don't you think of being an artist?" When they were painted in the 40s, the war was on. Because he had only the sight in one eye, he was devastated that he couldn't be in the war.
I have a feeling that he geared that disappointment and concern about not being able to enlist towards the greater good and created these beautiful group of pictures. He made a genuine commitment to the cultural fabric of Australia with his efforts to record what was going on in the outback, even in his exaggerated manner.
I mean, the big turning point was in the mid-40s when there was a terrible drought in Australia. He was commissioned by the Sydney Morning Herald to go out to Western New South Wales to illustrate a series of articles on this very, very serious drought. It was just devastation. The impact was very deep for him because he'd come from the land. I feel quite emotional saying it for some reason because it was a really important turning point in his life.
This is a really exciting find from a conservation standpoint. It's a painting that's never had any conservation or restoration. It's a painting that's escaped any embellishments by restorers. There's probably 3 paintings on this one canvas. He's gone and painted the painting that we can kind of see on the back, which he's either finished or not finished, happy or not entirely happy with. And he's taken the canvas off the stretcher, he's got the canvas and he's turned it around and he's painted another painting on the front. But it's not the painting we see. There is another painting underneath here. And he's gone and painted the image that we see now on top of that. In this painting, it's really exciting because you can see his workmanship. You can see how he's got to where he is. There is a sketch for this, a study for this, which has been gridded up. And Drysdale is a painter that wanted to get things right in his own mind. He was fastidious about the composition of the work. And that's why in this we can see how he's gone back and painted over areas he wasn't happy with. He's incredibly fussy about where things should be.
Okay.
Studying these pictures allows you to see that they formed the basis for everything that was to come afterwards. The Drysdale masterpieces like West Wyalong or The Cricketers, it's all there in this group of seminal pictures from the 1941 period.
Most of the paintings I know that I've done have been about subjects in the country. It's an environment which I know, which I love and which I like to go back to. For me, it has a tremendous appeal, and these curious and strange rhythms that one discovers in a vast landscape, the juxtaposition of figures, of objects, all these things are exciting.
While the works included in the 1942 exhibition were warmly received by critics and art collectors alike, they weren't so warmly received in officialdom. There was a genuine concern that these pictures, these outback images of this sort of struggling, stoic outback characters and this dry landscape, there was a genuine belief that they were actually going to deter immigration and tourism to Australia at that time. This was a time when paintings really mattered to Australians. The idea that they could look at a picture and take it so seriously or believe in it so much that it would actually be able to have an effect on the national psyche. That in itself, when you think of these pictures in the context of today's world, is extraordinary.